Graham G. Matthews here, BleacherReport.com, ahead of the Season 2 WWE's Most Wanted Treasures on A&E, premiering soon, April 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on A&E. We got the second season coming soon. We're talking to one of the hosts on the show, WWE Hall of Famer, Lita. Lita, how are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, the WWE Universe is getting to see a lot of you lately between this show, seeing you on WWE TV, obviously in the last couple of weeks at WrestleMania. But speaking about this show specifically, can you talk about, as someone that's been in the business, obviously your entire career, how much did you learn from partaking in this show and all the items that you came across and just kind of any knowledge that you gained coming out of the second season?
Oh my gosh, I learned so much, and I'm definitely like a learn by doing kind of person. So it was perfect to be out in the field on an active scavenger hunt, chasing down these pieces. But then, we would bring friends along with us who were attached directly to these items, and they would tell me, where they were, what was going through their head, whatever was happening, throughout their career when, like, in the piece corresponding with what we were looking for.
I mean, especially with a show like this, we get to see, and we got to see it on the first season as well, all the cool items that, like, especially as a lifelong wrestling fan, I didn't even know existed or like still out there. And I'm sure you're in the same spot as well when you come across this sort of stuff. Without giving away any spoilers, like, what was like the coolest thing that you came across during the filming of the show that you were like, again, either you didn't even know existed or you like didn't even know was still around or anything along those lines, I guess.
So, okay, there's one part of an episode where we feature the Ultimate Warrior, and the very, very, very short-lived tag team of the Ultimate Maniacs, where it is Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man. And Warrior would go through such really, like, we think of RVD as the airbrush king now in modern times, but Ultimate Warrior was airbrushing things from get-go. And just to see the intricate details up close in a piece and I mean, it's like two showboats of the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho Man when they combine forces. And so, I'm always like looking at the footage going into these, watching the promos that they had and
Mm.
everything. Like, oh man, I missed this chapter. I need to go back and watch this. And then listening to the connection that people have to that, or they're still quoting. They have just a couple promos and people are quoting them, still to this day. And I love seeing that, like the things that have stood the test of time. But then going deeper back behind that, like looking for Roddy's bagpipes. We
Hmm.
associate Roddy and his bagpipes, but I think of the coconuts. Like, that was like one moment, one promo, but then going back into the history of Roddy was a bagpiper before he was a wrestler, and why he thought he should incorporate those, and what the bagpipes meant to him, and just, getting into the mind of somebody about why this item became synonymous with them.
Yeah, there's a story behind every item, especially that we don't get to see on screen. That's the whole point of the show. And I think wrestling fans, WWE fans, what have you, some of the most passionate fans on the planet. So, I mean, I can only imagine we got to see it a little bit in the first season, but the process in trying to get these items back into the hands of WWE and trying to acquire them for them. Can you talk to a little bit as far as what you were expecting, if you thought it would be easy, more difficult, trying to get some of these items back into the WWE warehouse, and how difficult it was for some of these fans to part with their precious items, I guess?
So difficult, in fact, that we did not bat 1,000, that is for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer, to be so close, know where the item is, and not be able to come home with it.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I don't want to say this to the collectors out there, but I can't fault them, because I understand how it is beyond monetary value. It's beyond an experience to them. It is tied directly to a sweet spot in their childhood, to a thing that they are still passionate about to this day. So I absolutely understand why, but you kind of get that. It's almost like you're chasing that. Like, I wanted to be victorious. I wanted to make that call each
Yeah.
time to book. Like, I got it. And not every time could I say that. And I mean, sometimes it wouldn't be for a reason that the fan wasn't going to give it up, but we would really go through. I mean, and I didn't realize this was part of the job. We would have to actively authenticate everything to make
Wow.
sure that we are bringing back legit memorabilia. And so some of the times we would go down a path and we would have a fake item, and
Wow.
so that would be disappointing, but yet it would be a relief because I'm like, well, I don't want to bring this back and try to pass this off as something that was real when it's not.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think everyone can kind of relate to being in that person's shoes and trying to part with something that you've cherished for so long, no matter how long it might be. Is there something of yours, not maybe not even necessarily wrestling related, that you claim to be your most wanted treasure that it might be either very difficult or you would be like, all right, I'm never giving this away?
Yes, but I did find an appreciation from the show and seeing how much fans got excited to see these things,
Yep.
that when it came to my pieces that we do feature in the show, I I know where to find Ben. I know where the warehouse is. I did an indefinite loan. Like I know it's in good,
Yeah.
and I would like to see it, but the thought of knowing I can make that call and go, you know what, I want this in my office right now. Felt felt like a good compromise.
I feel like the next step is just we got to get the physical Hall of Fame up and going one of these days. I mean, obviously, it's not
On
an easy feat. I mean, that's got to be something that you would want to see as well, right? Just someplace to go visit and see your stuff and everyone else's stuff.
I would love that. I mean, so we've done two galleries so far, both at Royal Rumble and at
Yes,
WrestleMania,
both
and the
amazing.
fans,
Yeah.
yeah, loved to see that stuff, and I loved being there, watching them see it. So, I mean, I could only imagine having a Hall of Fame where you could walk in and see everything, and maybe bump into one of us that are just as excited to look at this stuff as well.
It feels like it's more a matter of time. Hopefully, at some point down the road, we get to see that. Like you said, around WrestleMania weekend, we kind of see it at Access and stuff like that. And it's amazing. But to get a physical Hall of Fame we can visit at any point during the year, I think would be pretty cool. But, talking about WrestleMania, we got to see you recently back in the ring for Mania. We thought you were done last year. You have the match with Becky Lynch in Saudi Arabia, Elimination Chamber, a fantastic match. You're back a year later, back in the thick of things. Not only that, but winning a championship alongside Becky every week on Raw, competing at Mania. Can you just talk a little bit about the run and how it's felt for you so far?
Yeah, so far it's been pretty incredible, and it's weird because it's as foreign as it feels like the first time coming back, like, oh, what am I doing here? It's like it does start to feel like an old shoe, like pretty quickly, where
Yeah.
once I'm back on the road, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this life. um but it's so it feels very familiar yet very new at the same time, with the deep locker room of women that are so talented, multiple women's matches every night to be able to post up and watch. Um, and yeah, just the possibilities seem really limitless with the players and the character development with everybody. Damage Control was incredible to work with, and then now as things have branched off with Becky and Trish, I just feel like that's all the more interesting to figure out how this is going to all play out.
Well, like you said, that's the new direction. Becky and Trish have coming off what we saw last week, the attack on you from Trish backstage. She admitted it on Raw this past week. It's cool, especially for a fan. It's not over a championship. Like you guys just lost the tag team titles. It's just a personal rivalry, the role that you'll play in it probably going forward. Just talk about that a little bit, because I feel like some of the best feuds that we've seen, men, women, doesn't matter, are not over a championship. And I feel like it's become more rare for whatever reason in the last couple of years for the women to get a non-title storyline like this of this caliber. And it's super cool to see as a fan. So just want to get your thoughts on that. Like you and Trish, people know that feud, one of the greatest feuds of all time, not necessarily all the time over a championship.
Yeah, I mean, and we would always be big proponents of that. We're like, we got to put some emotion in there, and we would constantly be throwing out ideas. And something like this makes sense. I mean, you look at two very iconic storylines in Rey Mysterio's career, both the custody angle, and then coming full circle to his emotional battle with Dominic. And so, I mean, it's just like, I think fans, they want to get involved. They want to be told this story. And sure, championship is great, but that's built in. And then so to have a high profile storyline where it is just emotional based, and there are so many different ways. The history is so rich with, over 2 decades with Trish. I've mentored Becky from as soon as she's come up from the main roster. So, I'm kind of in the middle between these two, and to see how things could play out. There's just so many different ways it could go. And I think it keeps the fans on their toes. They like to fantasy book it and try to say what's going to happen. But,
I don't think any of us really truly know what's going to happen until it happens. And those are the best stories when you don't know what's going to happen next. So we'll see where it goes from here. But for yourself, you've had a nice mix in the last year. You went for the Raw Women's Championship last year, again, involved in non-title stuff this year. Obviously, you were one half of the tag team champions, but the match at WrestleMania, not a title match. It was just a standard 6-woman tag, and it was a great match on night 2, or night 1 rather, of WrestleMania. And just talking about that for you, I would talk to Trish last month, and she kind of said something similar as far as not really putting like a retirement label on anything, like this is my last match, just coming back for when it's fun and for when it makes sense. Are you in a similar spot, or do you want like, I want a retirement match at this point, I want this to be it, or is it kind of a bit of both, I guess?
I mean, I really felt that my match with Becky in Saudi Arabia felt like a really nice retirement match that I did not anticipate having that opportunity.
Yep.
And I felt really satisfied with the whole full circle moment of that, of kind of paving the way for some women on the front end in the United States, going to when the relationship was established in Saudi Arabia, women weren't even allowed to come to the matches, and then there were no women performing, going to featured match where Becky and I were on billboards all over the kingdom. It just felt really poetic, and I felt really happy with that match.
Yeah.
So I feel good with that. And then this just kind of feels like bonus time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And honestly, anything beyond that is just the icing on the cake. Obviously, even if you didn't come back for that run, it still would have been great. But coming back for that, what we get to see you now is awesome. Going forward, obviously, we have this stuff going on with Becky and Trish. No one knows what's going to happen, like you said. Looking beyond that, if the opportunity presents itself, Rhea Ripley just won the SmackDown Women's Championship. I know you've mentioned before on Broken Skull Sessions, she's someone that you, like her work, and you think you're a big fan of her work. Is that a match that interests you at some point, maybe over that championship on the blue brand?
Yeah, I actually just saw an interview where Rhea threw that back out there, a singles match against me. Yeah, I would want I know we just talked about how matches can be really great without titles.
Yeah.
However, I would want that one to involve the title. But yeah, she's an incredible talent. I would love to work with her, because it would really push me. It would push me to get beyond my comfort zone, and I feel like I've been satisfied with what I've done in this chapter, but I would love to see how far I could take it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if you look at everyone on the roster right now in the women's division, Becky Lynch, I feel like a lot of people would say is the most similar to you right now. If she's 1A, Rhea Ripley's like 1B. So I feel like that's the match that just makes the most sense. But hopefully at some point we get to see that down the road. But as we wind down here, Lita, just talking about most wanted treasures one more time, you talked about stuff that you may not want to part with and stuff like that. If there was an item from your career that you no longer have, lost, you don't know where it is, if you could find it, what would that be?
Well, I had a really unfortunate incident happen where I had a bunch of my stuff stolen and then sold. And I didn't find out until after it was sold. And so I would really love to recover that, because I don't know if you've ever had like a home invasion. That wasn't this scenario, but it's like how you just feel violated, and it's not the item being gone. It's just the fact that it was stolen from me and then sold. I would love to get it back, just to feel whole, and also it's just just to see everything out there. Stuff that was just like I was saying, sometimes I would cut shirts up and leave them at the locker room. That's on me. But stuff back that is out there, I would love to be able to do that.
Well, anything is possible through Most Wanted Treasures that we're going to see you on this second season. Like I said, premiering next Sunday on A&E, April 30th. Yourself, Mick Foley. It's going to be a great time. It's a whole bunch of guests on the show that we're going to see throughout the season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Booker T as well, obviously. So we look forward to it. Lita, this is very much an honor. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.